Hiya knitters! Welcome to this week's video where I'll be making this cute little heart keyring. These are a perfect little knit that I have adapted from a pattern my mum taught me. To do this, I'll be using my 3.75mm Hiyahiya steel flyers. They are flexible DPMs. When knitting in the round, 2 of the needles are used to hold the stitches of your project, while the third is used to knit with. Because there are less needle transitions, knitting with the Hiyahiya flyers is quick and smooth in comparison with other needles. I will be using this double knit yarn picked up in Poundland of all places. So to start this pattern, you need to cast on 3 stitches and knit 1 row of knit stitch. You then need to increase by 1 stitch every row until you have 9 stitches on your needle. I do this by knitting into the front and back of the first stitch of every row, and a little tip to keep your project tidy, I knit into the back of the final stitch of the row. Thank you Mum once again for a good tip. Once you have 9 stitches on your needle, knit 3 rows of garter stitch. Another tip for keeping your project tidy is to slip the first stitch of the row onto your needle rather than knit it. At the end of these 3 rows, cut your yarn. To do this, I'm using the Hiyahiya puppy Snips, a handy little set of scissors that double up as a keyring, and that is one of the arches of the heart complete. You now need to cast on 3 stitches onto the same needle that your work is currently sat on, and repeat the previous 12 rows to create the second arch of the heart. So this is 6 rows of knit front and back, knit to the end, until you have 9 stitches on your needle. Follow this by knitting 3 rows of garter stitch. Both arches and all 18 stitches should be on the same needle now. You now need to knit 3 rows of garter stitch to connect both the arches together as one piece. The next 17 rows are to decrease the stitches down to 1 stitch on your needle. To do this, knit the first 2 stitches of the row together, knit the row, then knit into the back of the final stitch. Repeat this until you only have 1 stitch left on your needle. At this point, you want to cut your yarn with a long tail. Tie off that last stitch, and then you have your first of the 2 hearts that you're going to knit today. Now to make it into a little plushie, you need to make another heart, so repeat the pattern you have just done. Now, as I touched on before, the Hiyahiya flyers are typically used for socks and other projects knitting in the round. However, I hate knitting with long needles when I'm only making small projects, so I find these ideal for when I make little plushies. For a better idea of different ways you can use our flyers, head over to Hiyahiya Europe's Instagram to see plenty of amazing examples of projects our talented customers have made using our flyers. So once you have 2 completed hearts, you just need to sew them together. I used a Hiyahiya Darn needle to do this, placing both pieces back to back and sewing around the edges using blanket stitch. Once you only have 2 or 3 centimeters left to sew, you want to turn the project inside out and stuff it with soft toy filling. You can get this in most craft stores. Once it's filled to how you want it, sew up the remaining hole and you'll have 1 plushie heart. Now, rather than cutting the yarn, I use the same tail to sew on the keyring. I sew it directly through the tip of the heart to the centre at the top, but don't pull it too hard or you'll make it misshapen. Wrap your yarn through the keyring a few times and sew that keyring to the heart. Tie off your end and you're all done. The larger heart took me 45 minutes to complete, whereas the small one was barely half an hour. There'll be a list below to everything I've used in this video, a list of our stockists, and some tutorials I have made on the basics of knitting. Please subscribe and hit the notifications, as I will be posting videos every Friday of different projects I have completed, and occasionally I will be doing tutorial weeks. So please let me know if there's anything you would like to see more of, any suggested patterns or Hiyahiya products you'd like to see in use. And until next time, happy knitting!